Hey everyone, welcome to Startup Health TV. This is a Health Moonshot Update. I'm Logan Plaster. My guest today is Everardo Barojas, the CEO and founder of Prescrypto, a company that joined Startup Health in 2019. So when your healthcare system has jumped into virtual care and telemedicine is a reality, the last thing you want at the end of a virtual visit is to be sent somewhere physical to receive a paper prescription, or heaven forbid, have that prescription faxed to your pharmacy. What you want instead is a seamless digital experience where the doctor can electronically sign for the prescription and with a click of a button send it to the nearest pharmacy. This is called E-Prescribing. It's existed in some places but not yet in others. Until recently, it was not a reality in Mexico, where my guest today works. So Everardo and his team at Prescrypto have been trying to change that equation with an e-prescribing platform in Mexico that uses blockchain technology to make the process as safe and secure and accurate as possible. Now, thanks to some recent regulatory changes in Mexico, e-prescribing is really taking off in that country, and Prescrypto is seeing more growth than ever before. We'll talk about all that in our interview, as well as the unique leapfrog opportunity that exists in health tech across Latin America. Stick around.
Great.
So Everardo, Startup Health supports a global portfolio of health innovation companies covering 26 countries, but not that many of them hail from Mexico, which is where you are building your company. So I want to kind of start there. I want to start with the ecosystem there. And what do we need to know about the unique challenges and opportunities of building a health innovation company in Mexico and in Latin America, writ large?
I would say the first thing is that Mexico and LATAM are different to the US, but it's a relevant market. It's a very important market. It's sizable, and there are many opportunities that you don't have in the US and in many other first world countries. I would say this is the main driver for innovation here. Pharmaceutical companies and the rest of the ecosystem here operate with different objectives than in places like Europe, where there's a public system of health, but also under a little bit more constraints than in the US. So there are many nascent opportunities that maybe are not equivalent to how things work in the US. And the rate of innovation here is just climbing super steeply due to the fact that money is more cost effective in Mexico and most of Latin.
You said the objectives are different. Can you break down how those objectives are different?
So I think it has to do with how shifting into the digital realm will shift how most of the dollars that pharma spends in advertising, marketing, and sales today. So we know that whatever retail can move online will move online. We know that some pharmaceutical laboratories will go direct. And in that scenario, the way they do things now, which is have a traveling sales rep that visits the doctor, will not be feasible. So there's the shift and the difference in objective between the US and Mexico lies with the fact that advertising in the US works in a very particular way and different to the rest of the world, where you can advertise to patients. In Mexico and most of LATAM, this is not the case. So there have to be specialized media tools and platforms that can advertise directly to doctors. So the way that these things will move online, like you have the retail moving online, and at some point, product discovery will have to move online in some way. This will just happen in different platforms because of the different regulations.
What is the sort of ecosystem of internet usage that you are operating within? When you think about the average patient, think about the average pharmacy or primary care office, kind of what's the level of connectivity that you're innovating within?
It's high. In Mexico, I think it's at 90%. the level of connectivity for internet connection. One relevant difference, then, it doesn't have to do necessarily with the level of connectivity, but most digital tools for the healthcare ecosystem in Mexico and Latam are doctor driven, which is different from in the US, right? Where you know maybe the guy that's that you're selling to, or that will be deciding if you adopt a particular tool, will not be the doctor that's using it.
Got it. Got it. Okay. Well, that's a good segue into talking about Prescrypto, your startup, what you've built. So why don't you give us a flyover of the platform itself and where it stands here in 2021?
As telehealth has progressed due to the COVID restrictions, and as people have moved online or just remote, maybe not necessarily online, but definitely remote, the expectation of a doctor's visit comes with the expectation of a prescription that can be sent via electronic media, right? You expect, as a patient going in, you expect that whatever happens in your doctor's visit, you'll probably be prescribed something, and that you'll be able to get it, right? Yeah. And you'll be able to follow your treatment, because why wouldn't you? On the other side, the doctor also has this expectation. He expects to have the tools, as we are using a tool that's very cost effective, Zoom, right, to communicate remotely for many types of meetings. Doctors expect that they will have tools to fulfill their job. And the truth is, most of the times in Mexico, they don't. There is no tool for e-prescribing other than Prescrypto, other than what we're building and innovating. So what we're doing with Prescrypto is trying to fulfill that expectation. We're building the tool that the doctor will use to formulate and create that prescription. We're building the infrastructure that will be used to communicate that prescription to the patient, to the pharmacy, and to any auditing entity that might require to know that that prescription exists, or the contents of that prescription, safekeeping all private data in the meantime. And we're building the tools that the patient will use to be able to fulfill that prescription at whichever pharmacy is best for him, right? The one that has the products, the one that has the best price, the one that's closer to him, or that will deliver more conveniently.
Got it.
It's a bunch of things.
Yeah. No, I get it. You really framed it up nicely with this idea that, look, if you are having a virtual visit, you have this expectation at the end of that visit. If I want to give you an antibiotic, how am I going to get it to you? Is it going to be streamlined in the same sort of format that we're having this visit, or is it going to be sort of going back in time to a paper prescription that I have to go pick up somewhere? Are we going to have this be a cohesive workflow? And you're saying Prescrypto is building the infrastructure for that. So my question for you is, how has the Mexican healthcare system, or if you're selling in Latin America more broadly, how has it responded to this? Has it welcomed it? How has adoption been? And has the regulatory environment sort of kept pace?
So the regulatory environment has been one of the greatest challenges that we've had to deal with over the course of the last 5 years. Well, it was just a gray area at first, and then it was poorly regulated. And so it was impeding most of the relevant pharmacies accepting Prescrypto's tools, right? They were blocked by the regulation. And as soon as the COVID restrictions started, we saw clearly that there was a trend in almost every country in the world, but many countries in Latam changed the regulation to kind of accept, even if it was in some cases temporary, right? But accept that consultations were going to happen remotely. Here in Mexico, we had a very particular set of circumstances with the Mexican FDA called COFEPRIS, where COFEPRIS suffered a devastating blow during the 2017 earthquake, where they lost their offices basically, and they had to relocate. And then there was a change of government 2 years after that. And then was very political uncertainty for a while there. So we moved slower than other nations in this, but we finally moved decisively towards a favoring regulatory change at the end of February 2021. And
Okay.
so now we can do it.
Block that out for me. What was the change and how is it going to impact Prescrypto?
So there was contradicting regulation in two different parts of the law. There had been a change in 2018 that kind of considered that prescriptions could be signed electronically and thus could exist in electronic form. But there's this operating rulebook that pharmacies go by called the Pharmacopoeia that hadn't changed, hadn't been updated. So what this change meant was that this rulebook, that's almost normative, but it's not normative yet, rulebook was updated to consider electronic signatures and with some further high-level normatives of how prescriptions should be treated electronically. And we were the first ones to adhere to that normative. We're still the only ones to do that.
What does that mean for you? Okay, so you've been laboring under this for years now, and now regulatory change. You're well positioned. You say you're the only company sort of abiding by this rule book. So what does that mean for you in terms of potential growth, or what are you doing next?
It means that for any legit pharmacy that wants to extend their footprint to the digital world with prescriptions, we're the only option.
Wow.
And this has meant that, part of the work that we had been doing, like you say, for years, which was trying to onboard pharmacies so that patients that were using our tool could finally go to a pharmacy and fulfill their prescription seamlessly. This is finally taking effect. We're finally onboarding pharmacies. We actually onboarded the first physical pharmacy chain with over 600 different points of sale in June.
Oh, wow. Okay. So just last month, you onboarded a pharmacy with 600 locations, you say?
Yes, correct.
Is the pharmacy, so you're working to sort of build up those relationships, those partnerships. Is the Mexican pharmacy landscape relatively fragmented? Are there other big players like that, or are they more mom and pop pharmacies?
This is a medium-sized chain. So okay. It's more fragmented than the US, but it's not as fragmented as Brazil. For example, we have around 35,000 individual pharmacies. Around, depends on who you believe, but around 20,000 are chains. So around 30% of the market is consolidated with pharmacy chains. The largest pharmacy chains have around 2,000 different locations. We're already negotiating with two other chains that together represent around 3,000.
Wow.
Locations.
So that's huge. That's like a breakthrough moment. Am I right for Prescrypto? I mean, this seems like a big deal.
It is.
How is that?
It is not just for us,
right. No, for patients. Sure. I'm just thinking you are a sort of modest individual, the way you're describing this, but I'm thinking the regulatory change plus these big chain pharmacies kind of knocking down and saying, yeah, let's do this. This is like a potential leapfrog moment for Mexican healthcare and for patients in the area. When you think really big, when you sort of put on that health moonshot, hat, where do you want this to go within the next year or two? I mean, where do you think this could go?
I think it's definitely a very exciting moment to be building anything in the healthcare ecosystem in Mexico and Latam. COVID has done so much to bring practices that were in some cases outdated to the digital world. And this has been very positive in some roundabout way, especially for patients that are now able to receive treatments that would be otherwise impossible due to the restrictions. Yeah. So we think that it's a very exciting time. It's moving forward. This is not just happening With companies, we see that investment funds are becoming more active. Private companies and strategic players like pharmaceutical laboratories, distributors, and pharmacies are becoming more interested in the space. They're paying more attention to what startups are doing. And what we're doing in specific is we're raising money to take advantage of this opportunity.
What does that raise look like? And what's it going to enable for you?
It looks great.
Oh, I guess I mean,
now,
how much are you raising? Who are you looking for as an ideal partner, et cetera?
The ideal partner question, I think, is something I'm not sure I have been able to answer at any point in my different races. But we're raising around 750K. The ideal investor for us would be someone that's strategic but neutral enough that doesn't block our growth. What this will enable for us is properly integrating all these fragmented pharmacies that are dispersed all around our country, and where we have to have knowledge of their inventory and stocks so that we can direct the patient to a pharmacy that actually has their products. There's this really cool statistic in Mexico that a regular prescription takes 2.5 pharmacies to fulfill.
Really?
Right? So that's 2.5 points where you might not adhere to your treatment. You might just say, I'm not doing this anymore. I don't have time to go to another pharmacy if they don't have it here. And this is a problem for everyone. It's a problem for the doctor, that's making his best effort to give you treatment that will make you healthier, that will cure you. And if you can't find the product, then he loses, right? It's a problem for the patient, obviously, because if he doesn't fulfill his prescription, he can't adhere to the treatment. But it's also a problem for the pharmaceutical laboratories that are spending all this money trying to get doctors to prescribe their medications. And in the end, they might not be able to find them in the pharmacy, right? So this is something that you don't think of in the US because you don't have this problem because you already have electronic prescriptions, right? So you go to a pharmacy that has your medications.
Yeah. I mean, on the positive side, it means that what you've got here is low-hanging fruit. I mean, high impact right there. You just reduce the friction to getting your prescription and you've started to save lives like that. And it's right there for the taking. I mean, it seems like you're in an exciting sort of first mover position with the ability to start to consolidate and really do some exciting things. To close, one of the things I'm really passionate about is leapfrog opportunities in different regions of the world. We think about kind of copycatting sometimes, if another country is a little bit ahead of where we're at, like, oh, we're going to create the epic for my country or whatever it is. We think of like mimicking technology in a certain direction. And yet time and time again, we see that regions are able to leapfrog. They're able to take the learnings and the mistakes that have been made by other folks and then jump forward and make really important progress. So I think, what do you think, are there opportunities for you learning from the e-prescribing world in the US or in Europe or elsewhere, ways that you can avoid mistakes that were made in the past and actually kind of leapfrog forward in your environment?
Yeah, definitely. This is an interesting way to look at it, is that the e-prescription systems that are now deployed in the US and in the UK and in Europe were designed and built in the 2000s,
right?
Around the 2000s. So they were built with the, cutting edge technology at that time, right? So in some cases, you still rely on fax machine usage, right? To validate certain things with the doctor. This is the part that we can really leapfrog, because this technology, I mean, you can have a safe operating system with any technology. And you see that with satellites that are sometimes running really old operating systems with really old chips, but that have been around for a long time and they know the risks. It's not that it's unsafe or that it doesn't work right? It does work. Millions of people use it every day. But if you were to design the system today, you would do it with different technology. And so this is kind of what our approach was coming in. We saw that there was this really cool technology that I was very related to, because I had been an investor in one of the first Bitcoin exchanges in Mexico. And we saw that the blockchain technology was actually really good technology to encrypt data and send it between parties. You had kind of the same constraints where you didn't want people to buy the same prescription twice, which is like a reduction of the double spend problem. You had to validate the identity of whoever was issuing the prescription, and you had to validate the identity of whoever was receiving the prescription. So a very similar problem to what most peer-to-peer systems solve. So we decided to use blockchain tech to solve this problem. And in the end, it's a different approach to what is used in other countries. It's not necessarily better. I don't want to say that it's necessarily better, but it's definitely a more current approach that more in closer relationship to the way that data should be treated today.
Well,
as regards to privacy. Sorry.
Yeah. No, it's exciting. It's exciting. I appreciate you breaking down and explaining kind of the use of the blockchain and why that's important for security and for, like you said, the double spend problem. That's all the time we have, Everardo, but really excited to hear about, not just your journey, but kind of this moment in time that we're at and how the regulatory environment has shifted and how this could really open up new opportunities for patients in Mexico and in Latin America to get e-prescribing, get their prescriptions in a more reliable way, in a more secure way. And it's exciting to see that you're right in the middle of that. So congratulate you on what's happened this year.
Thanks, Logan.
All right. Wish you the best. Thanks for taking the time with me today.
You too. Cheers.
All right. Be well. A quick word about this show, in case you're new around here. At Startup Health, we believe in broadcasting the stories of health moonshot progress, the stories of the most forward-thinking entrepreneurs in health. If you want more of this good news about healthcare's problem solvers, make sure that you subscribe to our channel, hit that notification button, and follow us on social media at Startup Health.